You seem hungry. Good thing your table is ready with Saturday Omaha.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.
This is Dave Zorko. We are here on Saturday Omaha's Food Recognized Food for another wonderful episode where we get to connect with people in and around the restaurant industry. This particular conversation has been in the making for quite some time and has a lot of drama built in. Anyway, we're going to get to that. So I am sitting here in the palatial KIOS studios with Jon Stastny of Wonton Jon's and many other ventures that we're going to get into. Jon, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, and thank you so much for everything, for connecting with me. We've kind of got to talk at several events over the years, and I think you and I, we linked up a little bit at Burger Fight a while back.
Yeah.
And we're going to do an episode, and there's been some ups and downs in the restaurant industry and all sorts of things. But anyway, we're going to get into that. But the first time I got to meet you was you were doing a pop-up, and this was like early in the Wonton Jon's days.
Yeah, that was before we even had the food truck.
Yeah, it was just a table
right
at that point. And we were at Zen Coffee, and you had posted something on social, and you had a biscuits and gravy wonton. And I'm like, okay, this is different. I need to check out what's happening here. And so that was kind of the start of Wonton Jon's. But I want to send this kind of your way a little bit, how things have changed. And I'd like to talk a little bit about Blend, the mobile dining food hall, kind of some things there and some of the challenges you've encountered. But most importantly, how are you, and what is the state of Wonton Jon's now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, so it's ever changing in terms of the state of Wonton Jon's, but yeah, we're getting back rolling. We shut down the food truck, obviously, for the winter.
Yeah,
but we typically do that regardless of whether we had another business just close or not. So
right.
Getting back into the swing of things with that, getting booked out. We've only got a couple available weekends for the entire food truck season as of
that's great
right now. So yeah, that's booked up pretty solidly. We've got some weekdays and things, but we're kind of leaving those open for now anyways, so we can focus on the Benson location. We're working on opening up on North 61st Street. So really we're just waiting on the tile. We're getting new tile installed next week.
Nice.
And so hopefully by the end of the month, I'm not announcing any kind of opening day or anything until I have all the necessary permits and everything in hand, just because with Blend, obviously, we were supposed to open that in March of 2022, and due to different issues with different permits and things like that, we weren't able to open until August. So I'm not trying to really announce any kind of dates or anything until I have everything solidified. And because a lot of restaurants, I've seen it happen to other restaurants too, where they announce opening day and then they aren't able to open that day because typically a permitting issue. So I'm just waiting until everything is solidified and concrete before we announce that. But we're super excited about it.
That's cool. There's a health inspection and all those things that have to go on, and there's county inspections, or there's a whole laundry list of things, right? So,
yeah, luckily with this one we won't have to do as many inspections because it was an existing business we're taking over within the proper amount of time. The issue with Blend was it was an Amigos prior, but it was vacant for over a year. So once it's vacant for over a year, the occupancy permit expires, and then you have to get a new occupancy permit. And then a lot of codes change here and there.
Right.
And once they change and you have to get a new permit, you have to abide by those codes. So that's what happened with Blend. Is some of the electrical stuff we had to have completely revamped to meet the new codes, and due to lead times on different products and things like that, it was a very long, drawn-out process. So we actually passed our health inspection, but not with Blend right away, but not the electrical and mechanical inspections. We got to jump through a lot of hoops with those. So
always the list of
this
things.
Should be a little bit smoother than that process, I'm hoping, but I'm not counting the chickens before they hatch.
That's right. The burritos before they're wrapped, or the wontons before they're done. So how long has Wonton Jon's been around now? So that is 2018?
2019. We did our first free event where I just gave away free wontons at the Broke Down Palace off 90th and Maple. 88th and Maple. But we did a free event there September something. I think September 19th or something like that of 2019.
2019.
And then
Okay.
we did some pop-ups over that winter at different breweries and Zen and places like that. And then I bought the food truck in February of 2020.
Yeah.
And we did our first actual food truck event March 1st of 2020, and then everything hit the fan.
That's no doubt. That
Yes. So
understatement.
this will be
of
our
the year.
fourth food truck season, really like 3 years in business.
Wow. Before you started making wontons for everybody, did you have a background in the restaurant industry, or like how did you get your start?
No, so I'd always worked in restaurants kind of as like a side gig. I always bartended, served. I worked in the kitchen a little bit, but I preferred like the tip-based income. It was always on the side. Typically, I did sales. I did a lot of business-to-business sales for about the 7 years prior to opening the food truck.
Yeah.
And kind of bounced around. I've worked a lot of different jobs over the course of time, but
Sure.
generally, business-to-business sales was my
Gotcha.
main gig. And so I always liked cooking. I didn't really discover I liked cooking till like my early 20s. And I'm 37 now. So started going to music festivals and things like that, and started just bringing like coolers full of breakfast burritos to the music festivals. And
Oh, nice.
decided, I wanted to open a breakfast burrito truck. And that way I could travel around to the music festivals and cook for people, which I enjoyed. And so that's how that like dream began, and that's still why I started the food truck. But then we opened in 2020, and so all the festivals and everything got canceled. So we completely flipped our business model and started doing things more locally. We finally traveled to our first out of town festival last year. We went to Buena Vista, Colorado for a Billy
Great.
Strings festival, and that was pretty cool. So we're looking at doing a few more of those this
cool.
year.
That is cool. So you're actually getting to make that desire and that passion happen that you wanted to. It's like, hey, I want to, go listen to some good music, bring some food for people, and
Right.
have a good time there. That's super cool.
Yeah.
You were at Trucks and Taps for a while and serving delicious burritos out of there. Actually, we had Jared Eaker from Otilli Butchery on the show a little while ago, and I was telling him, I was like, that's the first place I encountered his chorizo, because I think you were using it in your burritos, right? So.
Yep.
That's very cool.
Back
So
then.
nice local tie-in at that time.
Yeah, definitely.
So the shift from having a table at Zen and doing pop-ups to having the food truck, was that always the goal? And you were just kind of, with the pop-ups, able to test drive your menu and that kind of thing before you got the truck? Or was it a kind of a stepping stone where you're trying to see if you liked it? Or how did that section go there?
It was a stepping stone, I would call it. It definitely wasn't to see if I liked it. I went all in when I did the pop-ups.
Awesome.
I had quit my job.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't like my job. So
Oh, fair enough.
it wasn't that big of a deal.
All right.
But so
I'm out. I'm making
that was
wontons
probably
later.
going to happen regardless. But I was just, really, I've always wanted to do my own thing. I've never really liked working for other people. And so I knew I wanted to start my own business regardless. And a buddy of mine that I had worked with also wanted to do the food truck thing. And for him, it was more of a see if he liked it kind of thing. And it didn't really work out. He did the first few pop-ups with me, and it definitely wasn't like for him. But I loved it, and it's super stressful, especially just starting out.
Intense, right?
And when you're doing pop-ups, it's not really a great way to make money. It's not super lucrative until you know what you're doing. And then once I figured out like how to make money at pop-ups, then I started making money, and then that's how I got the money to get the food truck, or at least the first portion of the money for the food truck, and I borrowed the rest. And so yeah, it was more of a stepping stone to kind of gain capital, because I think I had like $500 to my name when I started the pop-ups. So
wow.
Yeah, I was pretty much all in at that point regardless.
So one of the things that always, just amazes me, I mean, there's kind of this standard blueprint, like, like you said, you don't necessarily like working for someone else. That isn't what you'd like to do.
Right.
And of course, a lot of folks in the, hospitality food industry, and especially with you wanting to be around the concert scene, is seeing people and interacting with people as part of it. Right. But like, it's like, okay, go to school, graduate, get a job, do this, go work for a larger business or whatever. What was that spark? Or maybe it's just because you didn't like your job, so maybe it was easier, but where you're like, all right, listen, I'm out, I'm all in, I'm just going to go do this? Or was that a pretty natural, easy transition for you? For me, that would be a lot of like soul searching, going like, okay, I'm about to not have somebody sign my check. I'm about to go make my own check. So like, how did that happen in your mind?
Yeah, for me, it was more of a natural thing. I've always been sort of an entrepreneur. Like when I was in elementary school, I sold like candy out of my backpack, and
that's awesome.
And so that was, I've always known I wanted to start my own business. I actually had a GoPed business where I sold GoPed parts online, and like that was fairly successful. And I had a web design business in high school as well. And so I've dabbled here and there. I never really took the traditional path. I went to college for like a semester, and it wasn't for me.
Not for you. Yeah.
And so I never took that path. And like really, any jobs that I got were just kind of a way to pay the bills. It was never. I never felt like I was in a career with any of my jobs that I had.
Just a job, not a career.
Right. And so I never like felt, I tried a ton of different things because I had to. And, I was looking for a career. I thought, that was going to be the best way for me to be able to do the things I wanted to do. And I just nothing I did ever like felt like a career, like something I wanted to do long term. And then, when I started cooking for people and I figured out, with the food truck, I could travel, and it sounded better than it is, outside looking in, like everybody like that I talk to, so many people message me all the time because they want to start a food truck, and everybody's always says, oh, like that must be so fun. Or like, I think it'd be really fun to start my own food truck. And yeah, it's fun. Like I enjoy it, but it's a lot more work than anybody realizes outside looking in. And I'll be the first to admit, I thought it was fun. I thought it looked fun too before I started one, and I was like, oh snap, and then I realized how much work it is, but it is work I actually enjoy doing, and because it is my own thing that I'm able to grow with people that I like being around. I get to pick the employees that work for me, and it's people I enjoy being around. I love all of my employees, and they like working for me too. They've been with me for through all of the ups and downs. I still have the majority of the staff that I had when we first opened up. So
pre-pandemic and pop up to food truck to all this. Wow,
yeah, and there's been a little turnover here and there, especially like after COVID. The original manager I hired, like basically, I just told him like, look, man, like you're probably better off getting another job because I don't know.
You didn't know what was going on. Nobody knew what was going on. Yeah.
But other than that, so I've still got most of the employees
that's awesome.
Are with me.
I mean, like you said, it's your name's on the truck. It's Wonton Jon's. But you're putting your entire heart and soul in there. But all the prep and everything that goes in before you even take that truck to the event, then run the event, then clean up, especially at a concert or something, you're just getting probably just slammed that entire time. So there's just no rest for the wonton right there. Right. So yeah, my goodness. The other thing that's kind of fun and that, I talked about that biscuits and gravy wonton was the thing that really got me, but you're just doing something that's, a little bit different than everybody else. Not everybody else is doing a lox wonton or those type of things. And then, since my initial encounter, of course, you branched out into some really awesome burritos too. What's kind of your thought process or your creative process on how you make sure that, Wonton Jon's is Wonton Jon's and not somebody else's thing?
I guess it's not necessarily anything I've given a lot of thought to. I just run it how I want to run it and portray the image that we want to portray on social media and things like that. It's funny because I actually just left a meeting with the girl who's going to be helping us with the marketing, and she's worked for me for a long time, so great. She's fully aware. But she was talking about scheduling out posts for holidays and things like that because she's done it for other like more corporate type businesses and things like that. And I was like, we don't even really do that. Like we make sure that we're active in the community, and we don't need to do any kind of like gimmicky things or anything like that. So that's what I was talking to her about. Like, we don't really need to schedule out posts. Like a lot of businesses will do like a 30-day schedule of posts. And we don't do that because we just kind of do what feels right in the moments rather than, being super planned out in terms of, what we want to look like. We just are. That makes sense. It just...
No, it absolutely does make sense. And then you can adapt to the moment and how you're feeling. But I can see where, much like you were kind of saying, hey, I would rather work for myself and design things how I want. And in this case, it's like, well, maybe I don't want to run by a script or A, B, C, D. It's like, let's be dynamic with this and change it. And so it feels fresh all the time and you're engaged with what you want to do at that time. So that's cool. That's cool. Got you. Awesome. Did you come up with the wonton ideas yourself and the burritos, the recipes and things like that, and just things that you enjoy, or like how does a wonton come into being?
Yeah. So I had a wonton taco one time that was really good. And so that kind of put the idea in my head. where somebody had, baked a wonton shell or cooked a wonton shell in the form of like a taco shell and it was good. And I was like, you could literally put anything in a wonton shell. And so I did Hawaiian Rangoon for my buddy's 4th of July party, and it was just garlic cream cheese, grilled bacon, grilled pineapple, and sweet chili sauce.
I'm in.
On a wonton shell. And I've actually never served it off the food truck.
Really?
I have no idea why. I served it at the free pop-up. We did it at the free one.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's never been on the truck, but it was fire. Everybody loved it. And that's why
great.
I made more during the party. Like, everybody was like loving them so much. I went back to the store, got more, and made more like at the party. And then so that kind of put the idea of like the wontons being a concept, because prior to that I was just going to do a breakfast burrito truck, because that's what I always did at the festivals, was breakfast burritos.
Sure.
There's just a lot of burritos out there, a lot of burrito concepts, and the wonton is something completely different. It's just a great vehicle for food, and it's pretty neutral in terms of flavor.
Right.
But you can infuse it with flavors. We've got the ranch wontons, the everything wontons. We've done garlic parm wontons. Just like any flavor you can put in a chip, you can put in the wonton too. So there's just an endless amount of possibilities that you can do with the wonton. You can put anything in burrito too, but
it's true.
The wonton stands out. I still have yet to encounter another wonton food truck like mine.
Yeah, I've never seen another one. It's very unique. I always dig your logo with the sunglasses on the wonton. It's always very, very cool. So,
right.
well, that's awesome. So, and then so 2020 happens, and you were for a while doing you were at Trucks and Taps as kind of home base. And I know I got at least one, maybe more delicious burritos there, wontons and things like that. And so coming out of that, with Blend opening up. So Blend, like you said, it was in a former Amigos. And I thought that it was a revolutionary concept. I hadn't seen anything like it. So essentially you had several restaurant concepts that were available for online ordering. You ordered it, and then you pulled up through the drive-thru, and your order was ready to go. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was so cool because, especially with, the pandemic, nobody knew what was happening with restaurant doors, how many restaurant doors were going to open back up, if dine-in seating was a thing, or, how everything would bounce back. And this was such a unique thing because you could get local food that was prepared hot and fresh and on time. You could set your order, pick up time, and get it. And the other thing that I thought was cool, because it was a food hall type concept, is like little Susie wants mac and cheese, little Jimmy wants, a hamburger, Mama wants this, and whatever. The family wants to order all these different things. You end up with a burger and a burrito and a soup and a chicken sandwich or whatever. That was really awesome. So what was kind of the genesis for that idea, and maybe some of the challenges in opening the doors?
Yeah, so that idea basically was birthed in COVID because of all the pickup and carry out, and partially from being at Trucks and Taps with multiple different types of food trucks. I was like, man, it'd be cool if everybody could just order from all the food trucks in one order.
Yeah.
And to make that happen was a possibility, but there would have been a lot of logistics because we all ran on different POS systems and things like that. So it wasn't really like a feasible concept at that time. And I kind of just put it on the back burner and, forgot about it for a while and just focused on running the food truck. And then my buddy and I were talking about it, and it really seemed like a viable concept and idea. And I started doing research into trying to find technologies that could support it, and I found a couple good ones, and through that research found similar concepts. There's a couple in California, but it's more big chain brands like TGI Fridays and things like that. They're similar things, but none of them were like locally focused or anything like that.
Right.
And I really wanted to try and create one with a local focus with different local vendors, and I was able to get quite a few different restaurant owners in town pretty interested and excited about the idea. We did run into a lot of different issues trying to coordinate everybody. And then, when we were looking at a March open originally, that's what I was pitching to everybody. And then we weren't able to get our permits in time.
Because the electrical we were talking about.
Yeah, and we were going with a hoodless concept. And so most restaurants, for anybody listening that doesn't know what a hood is, it's basically like a giant exhaust system to get any grease particle, vapors, things like that, smoke up and out of the building, so you're not working in the smoky kitchen and smoking everybody out.
Sure.
But now they've got a lot of different, it's called ventless equipment, where you don't need a hood. They've got like the vents basically built into them where they're fully encompassed in one unit. However, they're not super prevalent for the right now, and so our city inspectors weren't familiar with them.
Oh, they didn't know what to do with it.
And they were trying to make us put in a hood, which a hood is typically like $25,000 or more when you get it installed, and that wasn't in our original budget because we were going with, we spent the extra money on the equipment rather than the
so you
hood.
didn't have to.
And so it was a whole process getting them to approve the equipment, which they finally did. We didn't need a hood, but also all of the breakers. When Amigos left, somebody switched out the breakers from GFI breakers, and then so we had to get GFI breakers put in, all of them, but you couldn't get 50 amp GFI breakers. Anyways, long story short, we didn't open until August, and so it was tough because there was a lot of vendors that were excited and thinking March, and then we didn't open in March, and then we didn't open in April or May or June or July. And so by the time we opened, everybody kind of had to go off different ways. And so like our vendor list that we originally had and were excited about was shrunk down to a few. And then coordinating that turned out to be a much bigger challenge because most people are business owners because they don't want to work for anybody else. So then all of a sudden there's me trying to coordinate a bunch of people that have different personalities and are used to, just doing their own thing.
And doing it their way. Yeah.
Which is like, we still want to let them do it their way, but they, within certain constraints, So, that was a challenge in and of itself. And then so Blend really never got to take on the form that it was originally intended with all the different vendors. So there was just a lot of challenges with that. I think opening up on time was the biggest one because then that kind of threw a wrench in it for all the other vendors. And, it's basically like having everybody in one space and then letting everybody go and then like trying to get everybody reined back in and back on the same page. And then, but like once we got the permit, that's when we had to go because we were already so far behind. And, our budget was dwindling by the day. So by the time we opened, our budget was so drained already that we couldn't afford a bad week. And we were doing okay. We were actually growing pretty well over the first like 6 to 7 weeks, but then we just had 2 really, really slow weeks, like back to back. And by the time you pay all your labor and bills, we just didn't have the runway for that by the time we got open. So unfortunately, I don't think anybody ever got to see what Blend was ever supposed to be in the first place. It never took on the form that I had intended.
Got you. So they never got to see the full vision there.
Right.
So, and that, man, just kind of one hit right after the other. And I could see that too, where everybody's excited and like, yeah, let's go. And then, okay, wait. And then, so you're like, okay, well, what do we do now? And then come back together might be kind of tough. And my goodness, man, but what a good move on, just going out there and trying something a little different again, that maybe nobody's seen, and certainly not around the Omaha area.
Right.
And there were, besides the concept itself being very innovative, there were 2 small things out of that too that kind of stuck with me that I thought were kind of super cool. I think it might have been Nebraska Brewing or something. You had like remote kiosks set up at other locations where you could just go to the kiosk and order there. And then I think you delivered it like to like, in this case, Nebraska Brewing or wherever it was, right?
Yep.
That was cool.
Yeah.
What a neat idea.
Yeah. And it worked to an extent. I think, again, if it would have had a little more time, I think, people would have been more familiar with it. And also, the technology that we had to utilize due to budget constraints wasn't the greatest because you still had to like type in your credit card number to pay.
Oh, gotcha.
You couldn't just pay with your card or tap to pay. And I'm actually going to be incorporating that back into our new Benson location because there are so many bars around there.
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to have our own in-house delivery, but within the Benson area, we will.
Yeah.
And so we will be putting those kiosks out for Wonton Jon's, but they're going to be a different tablet, different technology where you can actually pay with your card at the kiosk instead of having to type in all your information. Because that's some of the feedback we got is people would get their order together and then realize they'd have to like type out name,
Tap, tap,
billing
tap.
address,
Oh, yeah.
and all that, zip code, and it kind of defeats the convenience of it all when you realize that. Then it was no different than ordering from your phone. It was really just putting it out there.
Gotcha. So it was like almost there. It was like right there.
Yeah,
oh,
that was the story of Blend.
Gotcha.
Almost there is never quite what we wanted it to
be. but maybe on the lookout in Benson for a giant mascot wonton with sunglasses, like running burritos over to a bar somewhere. I can see this now.
Okay. I have looked into mascots.
Have you really?
Yeah. They're like awesome. $4,000 someday.
Oh,
when we get into more music festivals, I think the ROI might be there, because awesome. One of those running around a festival would definitely do some branding.
I think a giant wonton period would attract attention, and one with sunglasses definitely. Yeah, for sure. No question. The other, and this is like, I don't think I've seen this anywhere else in Omaha, but I thought this was so cool when I went to Blend. So if you get takeout and it's prepared for you nice and hot, and you order it and you're going to drive it home, and then it sits there and it steams in the box. And there's some places that'll poke holes in the thing to let some of the steam out. Mm-hmm. But if I do recall, I got it to go. Blend is always to go. Yeah. But I picked up my order there, and there was like a food safe moisture capturing packet attached to the lid of the to-go box. And I'm like, that's stinking genius. Where did you find those things?
Actually, at the restaurant convention in Chicago, they do it every year in like May. I found them like on my way out of the convention. Yeah, it was just a little table they had, not a whole lot of like marketing or like branding to the table, and I just like happened to read their sign, and it said that it keeps to-go food better longer. So
yeah, because that's 100% your business.
And talk to them. Yeah, and actually, it's like a Mark Cuban invested business. I think they were on Shark Tank. So yeah, but I'm surprised more people don't use them. They're expensive. It's like 25 to 50 cents per one, depending on which size you get. But it's pretty neat. You just keep them frozen, and then you stick it to the top. It's got an adhesive, and it gets stuck to our compostable packaging, and it can still be recycled or composted with those packets in there, and then it sucks up the moisture for like up to 30 minutes.
That's wild. Just so many like cool ideas just kind of happened in there. It's been quite a while since I've gotten food from Blend, and I still remember that because I opened it up. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I'm like, that's genius. It's like, because especially if your business is 100% takeout, you want that product to be the best thing it can possibly be, because nobody knows what the quote unquote in restaurant is like, because there isn't one. It's like, it's got to be top notch by the time you get it home. So that was just super cool. So
we had it all timed out too. Like, your order, we wouldn't make your order until a certain amount of time before your pickup time. So a lot of places, like, they've just got a rack sitting in the lobby that they throw all the orders up, so they don't have to deal with like the pickup orders. Who knows how long they're sitting there? They're not in any kind of like heating device or anything to keep them fresh or warm. It's just sitting there at room temperature. Very rare did we ever get any kind of complaints about like the food quality, which in a completely pick up and to go operation, that says a lot, because immediately when I'm ordering to go food, I automatically in my head already assume it's not going to be as good.
You knock it down a point or two just because I'm not eating at the table right from the kitchen, right?
I mean, we really took a lot of steps and put things in place to try and keep that food as good and as fresh as possible.
That's awesome. Well, kudos for thinking of those things. Your ability to look at different ideas and implement them is just really cool. And you did so many things in that one location. And when you and I were, I think it was post burger fight, and you guys were making awesome sliders down there at Exarban. Yep. We had a lot of good local places there. And so, we were gonna talk about this thing. And then, like you said, you had some challenges at Blend, and you got a hold of me and you're like, Blend looks like it's going to have to close. And then you get an offer to do something like 180 from the food truck. So what happened after Blend?
Well, my friend Alex Becker, he's the corporate executive chef for the Gather Group. They own Gather in the Old Market. Mm-hmm. They've got a location in Jackson Hole, and they're planning on opening some more. They've got a couple restaurants in Jackson Hole, actually, which is the original Gather is in Jackson Hole. And I was actually able to visit that a few years ago when Phoenix, my girlfriend and I went to the Tetons out there and actually visited the restaurant. It was phenomenal then, and the location in the Old Market is phenomenal as well. And they happened to acquire some restaurants in Maui.
Nice.
And so he had reached out to me, like, condolences basically about Glenn, because he'd eaten there a couple times too. And, I just let him know, like, I don't have anything going on in the winter. If you guys need some help, and I was, I'd even be willing to travel because I knew they had the Jacksonville location
Right.
as well. And so that's kind of what I had in mind when I mentioned that was, if you need somebody, because, I wanted to make money, but I also just wanted something to do so I didn't have to like
Sure.
sit there all winter and
I
dwell
don't-
over the fact that I shut down Blend.
Yeah, I don't see you as a person that's going to sit there and be bored doing nothing. I
No.
don't think that's you.
No,
Yeah.
I can't. I can't. But yeah, so and they had just acquired these properties in Maui, and he said, funny enough, like they need a lot of help down there. It's their busy season, and talked to them, and they wanted me to go down there and help. So I went down there for about 6 weeks and worked in their restaurant in Maui that was on the ocean. It's called Gannon's, which is actually, she's like a Beard Award nominee.
Wow.
I didn't actually work directly with her. She obviously sold the restaurant since then. But yeah, it was an experience for sure. It was something completely different, going into work in somebody else's kitchen, which I hadn't really done prior to that, and just helping out where I can, and being in Maui wasn't a terrible thing either. So.
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, we could send you to Wyoming or Maui. Okay, so
Yeah, I've never been to Hawaii, so that was cool.
that's fantastic. So, and what was your role there in the kitchen? What were you doing?
It just depended on the day. I helped with some of their banquet catering stuff that they had. They were super short staffed, so it was really like wherever they needed help. I did a lot of prep. I did a lot of help kind of revamping, organizing, coming up with different, more efficient ways
Wow.
in the kitchen, and just kind of implementing a lot of the things that Gather, because Gather is a very, very well ran establishment, and the new spot was not so well ran. So they wanted kind of insight and help to implement some of that stuff. So just whatever they asked of me, that was that's what I helped with.
I'm thinking here that your skills in setting up, especially like a food truck, which is such a small space, and you have to make it work for everything that you need to do. So, did you learn what was going on at Gather in Omaha first, so that you could go there and then help them do those things, or was this just like you just walked in and you're like, okay, observe and change? Like, how did that?
It was a little bit of both. I worked like 4 shifts at Gather with
Okay.
them before I went out.
Yeah.
And so I got to see a little bit of what they were doing,
Gotcha.
but they were a little short staffed as well there. So it was a crash course
Yeah.
nonetheless. And then, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of time to actually like change much while I was there, but
Sure.
because they were busy and in the thick of it, and we were able to implement some changes, but it was more just kind of assessing and coming up with different solutions to some of the problems they were having, and then kind of the next guy behind me would take that and go, because obviously I couldn't stay down there permanently.
Sure.
But-
Got you. And then, so from helping them organize and bringing what maybe Gather in Omaha was doing, were there any skills or things, or what did you learn or pick up from that experience and bring back with you to Omaha?
Yeah, I definitely learned quite a bit just seeing different ways that people do things, because I'm not a classically trained chef at
Right.
all. I've never had any kind of formal training really in the kitchen. So I learned a lot of different techniques. And actually, I mean, a lot of it was I learned like the names for what the things I was doing were actually called. So that was kind of something when I went in, they'd ask me if I knew how to do something, and I don't really know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. And then when they tell me, I'm like, oh yeah, I do that all the time, but I didn't know what it was called. And so I learned like a lot of the technical terms and things like that, and just different like brunoise and things like, different like fine dicing techniques, what the names were. I just always called it like a fine dice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so just different things like that is definitely, and I learned some, tricks of the trade too from guys that have been doing it a long time, in terms of just better, more efficient ways to, get things done in the kitchen. So it was definitely like a mutually beneficial learning experience, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Like you said, you're not classically trained. And so you're picking up those things in the brigade style kitchen, I'm guessing, that type of scenario. And then what's kind of cool is then you're bringing in your, hey, I know how to do this at a food truck, at Trucks and Taps, at Blend. Like
Yeah.
you while not being classically trained or working in the kitchen at a brick and mortar restaurant, you have 4 or 5 totally different scenarios between, pop-up, food truck, Blend, Trucks and Taps, a wedding. That's really cool. So you really did kind of have a good knowledge share opportunity to bring two totally different, methods here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's almost like you had the like, I don't know, maybe they were like fencing or judo, and you're bringing in like the MMA, like
Right.
mixed martial arts of food into the kitchen. So that's very very cool. That's very. Anything else that you mentioned the brunoise or cut style there? Anything terms or things or anything that you picked up on and you're like, oh yeah, okay, so that's this thing.
Yeah, it's different names for like different pots. Like you said, like grab the rondo, and I didn't know what a rondo was, but it's basically just like deeper flat pot pan combo that I have three of them. I use them.
Yeah.
But I've never heard them called a rondo before. They're just different things. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
That's
But
cool.
yeah,
That's cool. Well, because that's one of those that the little plastic pint or larger containers.
the delis.
The delis,
Yeah.
right? That's one that I picked. I was like, oh, okay, it's a deli. All right, well, it makes sense. And now I see it all the time, and it's not a container anymore. It's a deli. So
Right.
it's just kind of cool to kind of get some of that behind the scenes,
Yeah.
interesting information too. So that's very very cool. So okay, so sounds like Mario was nice.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. You learned some, you taught some, shared some knowledge. And I must confess, I haven't been to Gather yet, but they're doing all the hydroponic, like growing and thing, like they're growing veggies at the restaurant, right?
So yeah. They've got a whole hydroponic farm
that's so
underneath.
Cool. That's so cool. So that's such a neat concept. So you finished that up. At that point when you were in Maui, now you had the food truck season coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did that look like when you were, coming back to Omaha? What was going to happen after that?
Like my last week in Maui is when I found out the Baked After Dark spot was coming available. Prior to learning that, though, I had said I'm never going to open a brick and mortar ever again. I would rather be able to bring my food to the people, which is what I like about the food truck. You can go to the events. We operate with a minimum guarantee. Like we don't take the food truck out unless it's a larger event. But like,
sure,
typically, like if somebody asks us to bring the food truck out, we do have a minimum guarantee that we require. So like, I know I'm going to be able to cover all my expenses and everything every time I
you got
take
to
the
pay
food truck out. I would have been able to get a very reasonable commissary kitchen for very low overhead. And for a couple months there, I'd convinced myself that I had no interest in like growing it past being a food truck to make money and do the things that I want to do.
Sure.
And pick and choose, where I want to go, when I want to go. But that's really like not my style either. Like I would get so bored with that. So then I found out the Baked After Dark spot was going to be opening up, coming available, and conveniently it's 4 blocks from my house.
Nice.
And so I messaged her and asked her if she knew if anybody was taking over the spot. And then the landlord reached out to me the next day, and we had a good conversation, and sounded like a real possibility. So I talked to Phoenix about it, and went back and forth on whether it was a good idea or not. And the more we talked about it, just the more excited we got, and the more it made sense. And so that came about really, within the last couple months, 2 months ago, and hopefully we'll be open by next month is the goal. So yeah, I really had no idea when I went to Maui. That's a big reason why. I deleted Facebook off my phone as soon as the plane landed in Maui. Shut off a lot of the notifications for the Wonton Jon stuff. Even my calendar. I just was like, well, there's I'm gonna be gone. There's nothing I can do about anything anyway. So I just shut it all off. Started reading a lot more. Took some time to myself.
Center yourself and see what you want to do.
Yeah, and then kind of. I didn't take a break. I was working a lot while I was down there, so it's not like I was just like taking 2 months to chill and relax. But I wasn't the one making the decisions for 2 months. I didn't like it just because I don't like working for people. Like I said, I like making the decisions, but it was nice to not have to make those decisions for a couple months and really kind of clear my head and figure out what it is I really want, and kind of just take a look in and see what was up. So
that's good. Well, and what a good opportunity there in Maui, like you said, just to take a break. And while you're still working, like you said, some of the decisions you didn't have to make, so you could just concentrate on focusing on, what do I really want to do, and because everything that you've done is because you wanted to, meaning that your heart's in it and it's gonna come out best because of that. It's not
Right.
because you have to. You have skills, you have knowledge. You could go work for someone else, but you don't have to. You've got this other, pursuit here, and the fun that is, everything that you do in addition to the quality that you strive for and things like that is great because you're just putting it all in. So that's awesome that you had that opportunity. That's very cool.
Yeah, it was crazy timing. Firm believer in, everything happens for a reason. And as long as you keep your eyes open for opportunity and don't be afraid to take those opportunities, then, things will work out how they're supposed to. And that's what I feel is happening. So
that's so cool. The restaurant, because we do record a little bit in advance, so that by the time somebody listens to this, they might be even closer to Wonton Jon's and Benson. So you're going in the former Baked After Dark spot.
Right.
If you're at liberty to say, what does the brick and mortar concept for Wonton Jon's look like? Because Blend was takeout in the truck. So what's kind of happening here? What's going to be at Wonton Jon's?
Yeah, so it's going to be very simple, quick service style restaurant. We're going to have the ordering kiosk. So like when you walk in, there's going to be 3 ordering kiosks. You'll also be able to order at your table. We're just going to have 5 tables. So not a big restaurant by any means. I think the lobby area is 300 square feet total.
Yeah, it's a pretty small space.
Yeah. And so it's perfect for me. I've never wanted like a big restaurant or anything. And so it'll be counter service. You pick it up from the counter, you eat it, and you go. And we'll basically have it'll be cool though. I think it'll be cool in there. But we'll have our breakfast burritos. So we'll be open. The plan right now is to be open initially Thursday through Sunday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Oh, wow.
While we get our bearings and our staff and our training.
That's a lot of hours though. Still, that's all day.
Yeah, but we'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and like Sunday. Sunday we'll close at 2. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 to 8. Sunday, 8 to 2. And that's the thought right now. That could change before we open.
Sure.
But we're still going to be running the food truck as well on top of it. But we're just going to have our breakfast burritos. We're going to do the cheesesteaks that we had from the
nice.
Omah Cheesesteak Company.
Yeah.
At Blend, because that was our concept as well. And so we're going to be doing the cheesesteaks. So there's a good lunch and dinner option. But we'll have the breakfast burritos all day. Because even at Blend, like the breakfast burritos were the best seller even during dinner time. So
the goat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll actually be able to, I finally figured out a way to make the goat sauce shelf stable without affecting the flavor. So we'll be jarring that and selling that
fun.
as well out of there and just doing little things like that. And then so we'll have the cheesesteaks, and I'd like to implement acai bowls just to give people a healthier option in the morning. But that won't be on the menu initially. It's just going to be the burritos and cheesesteaks and some sides and super simple, maybe 12 to 15 total menu items.
That's cool. A highly focused menu. I always like Block 16 probably is my favorite example of this. Is like it's a focused, smallish menu, and then they run like a special so they can still have fun. I think that's really, really cool. It's like make it solid and then have a little fun with it. So.
Yeah, and I've always kind of emulated what they've done because I've always loved Block 16 and the way that they do things there. And even before I ever thought about having the food truck and I'd go to Block 16, I'd be like, if I ever had a spot, like it'd be very similar to this. And so that's try not to copy them exactly.
Sure.
As far as that model goes, we're going to be really good at the menu we do put out, and then have fun with some specials here and there to hopefully bring some people in. Just try different things without trying to do, because that's one thing that I struggled with at Blend, since we weren't able to get the other vendors coordinated and be able to have them in there operating. We had to come up with our own concepts. And so really I was trying to run 6 different concepts.
Brand new concepts too.
And so not only, creating those menus, but trying to keep the quality control and train my staff. Like I feel bad for them because they're having to learn new stuff every day.
And so this week, a new restaurant.
Yeah. And so it was, it became like way too much. So I'm trying to go the other direction with this and be, hyper focused on what we do and do it really well. We'll have like 6 burritos and like 4 different kinds of cheesesteaks that you can pick from.
Nice. Baked After Dark, having been in there, and Stacy and family they're so awesome. But I actually got to interview them at the bakery.
Nice.
And so having been in there, you had the baking equipment up front, and then there's kind of this smaller, really low ceilinged back area back there. Did you have to bring in like equipment? Did you have stuff from Blend? Like, how did you have to totally revamp the inside so it has the stuff you need to cook, because you're not making cinnamon rolls? So
right, yeah, no, it'll look a lot different when you see it next. We're getting all new flooring in the little dish. I call it the dish pit area because that's where the sink and everything is.
Yeah.
And then I call the upper spot the kitchen. We did buy one of their ovens, like the oven and range, but other than that, it's all either equipment that I've had. Because I did buy a bunch of equipment when I first got the food truck because it was kind of a blank slate on the inside.
Sure.
And I kind of kept it that way to keep it simple on the food truck. So I had a lot of equipment in my garage that Phoenix is super happy that it's not in there anymore. We finally have a little bit of room in there, and we did have some stuff from Blend. I'm selling a lot of the stuff from Blend.
Sure.
But we were utilizing some of that equipment as well. So that was nice. I haven't really had to go out and get a lot because
good. It's expensive.
This thing's going to be the definition of bootstrap. Luckily, Ryan, he's the landlord. He owns like Bar Chen in St. Andrews as well.
Yeah.
But he's been super cool and working with me on just helping me get open. So, because
that's great.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Now, we were talking about the food truck a bit ago, and commissary kitchen. So I think that's a Douglas County thing or whatever, right? You have to have a kitchen that you operate out of besides your food truck. I don't know if a lot of people know that, right? Does having the brick and mortar satisfy that for the food truck? Does that help you out a little bit?
Yeah, and I'll be able to park the food truck there in the back.
Oh, cool.
So this will be the first time I've been able to really operate trucks and taps. We have that, but like you're parked kind of far away from the kitchen.
Sure.
But we'll just literally be able to go out the back door of our kitchen into the front door of the food truck and load everything in and out.
Nice.
Super easy. So it'll be pretty convenient in that sense. I've literally had to share every kitchen I've ever been in with somebody else, another concept. So it'll be nice to have our own space.
Yeah. Oh man, that's really cool. So you get kind of a secondary benefit of that as well. So that's very cool in the space, like you said, for the food truck. And yeah, I mean, anything that makes your prep and load in, load out easier, probably nice. So
definitely, and the prep's going to be the biggest thing because we've never been able to like be open and prep really at the same time. Because with Blend, Wonton Jon's was completely separate. I had investors and business partners in Blend.
Yeah.
So, we were separate. So the Wonton Jon's prep had to be done separately from that. So this will be nice because we can just have a couple prep cooks doing all of the prep for the food truck and the brick and mortar location all at the same time. And it'll really be efficient, not just in terms of time, but just labor as well.
That's super cool. Well, before we wrap it up here, because I want to be respectful of your time also, but of course with Food Recognized Food, I'm going to ask you if you would, when you're not eating Wonton Jon's food, but you're out eating, fun local spots, what are some places that you really like that you might recommend people go to, and maybe what might somebody get there?
Yeah, so it depends on the vibe I'm looking for.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for something, good down home, it's always Everett's.
Everett's on Maple. Sure.
Yeah, always Everett's. And then our go-to, if we're looking for, a nicer meal with some ambiance, just in terms of consistency, it's usually Dante.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it never fails. Like they're always super consistent. And they're not open on Mondays anymore. They used to be open on Mondays, but like not a lot of restaurants are open on Mondays, and that's always the day that I can go eat. So that it's usually slim pickings, and we always went there because like even on Mondays it was always good. So we like going there. I mean, Virtuoso, Acarant.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the list is so long. There's so much good food.
Well, oh man, and you being in the Benson area too, I mean, there's so many solid restaurants on Maple right there. Definitely. And like you said, Virtuoso is a great choice. That hot honey on their pepperoni pizza is so good. David Lasoli's doing good things, and Acarant's got.
I want to talk to him about maybe making me some breakfast pizza crust.
Oh yeah,
because I got a good oven for it.
Yeah, so. if you're listening to this, David Losole, go see Jon. And so and Dante, my gosh, the beef bolognese.
Yeah, the bolognese.
Oh my gosh,
and their menus. It's always so fresh. Like their menus always, constantly changing. There's always like. You can have your go-tos and not be disappointed that it's not on the menu the next time.
Right, it's still
but
something
there's
good.
always something new to try too, which is like one of my favorite parts. Is they always have some, off thing like quail or
Right.
something like that on their menu that you're not going to see most other places, and a lot of different wild game and things like that. That's always just fun to try. So you can, you can mix it up
Yeah.
but you can still, like, if you're craving something specific, they keep their standard menu pretty standard.
I may have eaten that beef bolognese out in the parking lot during COVID when they were doing takeout orders. Like, yeah, I'll just take a box of that, please.
WD Cravings beef bolognese is really good though too.
Oh, I haven't had theirs.
Haven't had that? Oh, no. We just went there the other day. There's so much good food. But Piero, oh man, that bolognese awesome. Is so good.
I'll have to give that a shot because he's got the short rib sandwich, the breakfast sandwich. I love that short rib.
I haven't got there for breakfast.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so there's an exchange. You can try the short rib sando, and I can try the beef bolognese. So that's a good call in. And Dante too. We're talking about good takeout strategies, but they do the par baked pizza, so you can take it home and finish it in your oven.
Yeah,
I think that's so cool. And Everett's, they're kind of tucked away a little bit and totally worth a find. And I was there kind of recently and had their Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, the Brussels are good.
Their Brussels are awesome. And somehow every single leaf of every single sprout had that nice char on it. My gosh, it was delicious. I took a photo of it, and there was no way to convey how tasty it was because it's a little darker in there, and then everything has that nice char on it. But man, there's
they keep it dark in there, so the food photos that people share just never do it justice.
Right.
And their wings are so good, and that's another one. They've got a very small, simple menu, but they knock it out of the park every time.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, hey, as we're closing it down here, if people want to follow along with what's going on with Wonton Jon's, the brick and mortar, the truck, all those kind of things, what's happening, where's the best place for people to find you?
That's so all of our social medias are at Wonton Jon's. It's WONTONJONS. There's no H in John, so it's WONTONJON. Yeah. And wontonjons.com. Our food truck. I'll have the calendar up here in the next couple of weeks in terms of what our season's looking like, and we will be booking some events still, but we're pretty full up there. But in terms of public stuff, we're going to work with some of the breweries that,
nice.
A lot of the breweries helped us get our start, so we still like to go show some love there and do those events. So wontonjons.com.
Perfect.
And then come check us out in Benson.
I love it. Sure. I love it. Absolutely. So that's awesome. And, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thanks for having me. It was cool.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was so good. And, I love all the ideas and things and the passion that you have and getting those, those wontons and those burritos into people's hands and everything that, with the pandemic or, supply chain issues or whatever, everything that comes at you, you overcome it and you keep going. And you still got a smile on your face and that passion. You can, see it when we talk, and it's fantastic, man. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm glad we finally made it happen. I know we've been talking about it for a long time. So, and I'm not always the best. So there's just so many channels of communication. It's hard to keep up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we made it happen. Here we are. This is perfect. And with that, then I'm going to sign it off here. This is Dave with Saturday Omaha. And check out Wonton Jon's. There's some good stuff happening. And as we say, until we eat again, stay hungry. Bye.
Our show is recorded and produced by Saturday Omaha. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as email SaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay hungry.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.